One of the ones I am putting out in the new batch, which I will tell you, is
Hello there, and welcome back to The Disconnected. I'm here with Eric D. Wilkinson, who is from MVD Rewind, and I think you do a few things at MVD, right, altogether?
I wear a lot of hats, especially when I have bedhead. Yeah, I oversee acquisitions. In addition to, obviously, I oversee and manage the Rewind collection, but given my experience in the home entertainment industry, I do a lot of. I have some involvement in sales and a lot of different areas here in the company, but mainly I oversee acquisitions and I spend a lot of time working on the Rewind collection and the Marquee collection titles, things like that.
The MVD Rewind collection has been special to me from day one. I don't know if it's just my age. I don't know if it's just the sensibility of the line, something about it, but it has just kind of reached all those sweet spots where it's just every title has something about it that you can fall in love with. So I am stoked to dive deep a little bit onto it today. There's some other things that MVD's done that I'm real excited to talk about. But first, I mean, like you just alluded to, your history with the home entertainment. Can you go through some of that? And I know you've done some interviews on all this, so I don't want to, relitigate all of it. But
I was a movie geek as a kid. And, I spent a few years at a video store, and then I sort of worked my way up. I went from video store to video distributor, which at the time I was hired, it was called Star Video, and that became Valley Media. And then I went from there to, I spent a little time at an independent in New York called Arrow Video, but not the same Arrow right. Entertainment, not the same as Arrow Video. It was called Arrow Entertainment. Surprisingly, which was cool for me because it was Arrow Entertainment was started by a man named Dennis Friedland. And if you're, this is a deep cut, but Dennis Friedland was the gentleman that started Canon Films, who sold it to Golan and Globus. So for me as a film geek, I mean, when that job opportunity came about, I jumped on it because I'm like, wow, this is the guy who started Canon Films. Plus, I was replacing Jason Blum, who had left Arrow Entertainment to go work for Miramax. So now that I look back, I realize, wow, I had some big shoes to fill. But listen, it was a good job. I got a lot of experience there, and the big reason why I had moved on, rather quickly from that job was because I had an opportunity to go work for MGM Home Entertainment. And that's where sort of, my career, took off because it was a major studio. I did not have a ton of experience other than, being a geek and the few jobs I had prior to that. But I learned a lot there. And that's really just taken my career, to next level and has given me the opportunity to, eventually make my way to MVD.
And MVD, obviously, giant name in distribution in the U.S., especially right now.
It is. They've been around for about 36, 37 years. I mean, MVD stands for Music Video Distributors, although we don't, we only break it out like that when people ask, because, back in the 80s with MTV and people were buying music videos on VHS, I guess MVD was the place to buy those things. But music video distributors eventually became, MVD Entertainment Group. And I think sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, they added more. They started dipping their feet into the feature film distribution pool. And, when they brought me on, that's when I think that they saw an opportunity. We can do better and we can maybe get some better content with somebody with a little more experience. And that's where I came in.
Well, you have filled the shoes quite nicely, if I can say. It is nice to see somebody that has this background because, other interviews they've called you like the man on the inside for all of us that love this hobby, but it's kind of hard to understate how much that is apparent. And we'll get into some of the details for that, like MVD Rewind with the pricing, with the details on the aesthetics. Yeah. But when you started Rewind, like, first off, why did MVD Rewind start? Because I think we're going on, right about 5.5 years 2016,
Geez, I think 2016 was it? Late 2016, I think, was DOA and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and then so we're going on 6-7 years. So what's your question?
Yeah.
Why did it start?
Yeah, how did it start? What was the idea behind it?
It started as like, they let a rooster in the hen house. I mean, like once I got the job. This was my first, I guess, when I worked at Kino Lorber, I did acquisitions amongst other things. But once this job was the first full-time, acquisitions, where that was the main part of my job.
Right.
And then once I got here, I think it probably started. I had a history with the owners of the movie Coming At You, which was just a cult movie favorite of mine, the 3D film. And we picked that up and we put that out in 2015. And that was a movie that I was going to do a Kino, but when I came here, I brought it here. And the other one was our first release of Forbidden Zone. And I'm looking at these films and I realized, I wanted to build a brand for MVD because that's why those two titles probably aren't in the Rewind collection, because they came out, they predated the Rewind collection. But I took a look at those and I said, you know what? Let's build a brand for these kinds of movies. And then I said, let's build a second brand, because not movies like Rain Man, I don't want to, I didn't want to retro up a movie like, Rain Man. So like a movie like Double Impact, great for Rewind. Rain Man was an Academy Award winning, even though it's 80s and it's older, it's an Academy Award winning Best Picture. It's got a little gravitas. I didn't want to joke it up like I would, a cultier film. You know what I mean? So I that's what started it. It was those two titles that sort of inspired me, and then I went to my bosses and said, look, I want to build a brand here. And I think that the first reaction was well, nobody knows at the time, they don't know MVD as a brand. We're a distributor, but we're not, we're not a brand that consumers necessarily are aware of, other than they'll see the name on the back of a disc they, may have bought. And I set out to change that.
And now, I mean, MVD Rewind is 50 spines deep, and we're about to get 51?
Yeah, 50 spines deep. Swamp Thing is number 50, yes. So, and we're about to get number 51.
That is really damn impressive. I mean, first of all, in that short amount of time for a newer line, I think a lot of people would underestimate how difficult it is to get established like that, especially when MVD didn't, like you said, they didn't have this massive.
No, they didn't have a following.
Criterions or something.
Exactly. I mean, as a collector, consumers have to trust the brand and make sure that if they're going to put money and buy your content, that it better be quality, because collecting is an expensive proposition. And we're certainly, we're not as prolific as Kino Lorber. You'll notice when we make announcements, there'll be like 1, 2, or 3, and then it sort of quiets down for a little while. Like I get them done, I announce a bunch of them, and then I go. I wish I was more active, I guess, on the Rewind social media page, but I have to get back to work and work on the next batch of titles. So I just closed 2 this morning that I'm really excited about. One of them is a little newer that I'm not sure. It's a cool horror movie, but it's like from the early 2000s, and it doesn't quite feel retro enough for Rewind, and I don't try to force titles into Rewind. There's two, there is Abominable, which is from the mid 2000s, but if you've seen this movie, you know that everything about it is retro. It fits,
yeah. I love
the packaging, shot on film, the cast, just everything screamed 80s. And the Go-Go Boys, yeah, there it is. And the Go-Go Boys was another one that was a newer film, but it just belonged in Rewind because of the subject matter and what it was about. This horror film I picked up, though, I'm going to take another look at it. It might be a marquee title, but I still might go all out and try to really make a nice edition of it. And then we have this other title I think it's from the late 70s that no one's expecting coming from us, that I'm really, really excited.
Very nice. So, I mean, the whole, how it fits into this line really seems like it lies within Eric through most of this, on how you feel about things. I mean, your name, I'm going to talk about this one a little bit, but your name is literally on the collection.
Yeah. I didn't know if we could use the Errol's logo or not, because
Right.
Blockbuster owned Errol's and somebody owns Blockbuster. It might be a dead trademark at this point. But my brother, who designs the packaging, sometimes we put little Easter eggs in like there. I'm like, I said to him when we were making that one, when we're sort of doing an Errol's video box, which, very few people know what the hell Errol's video is at this point. I'm trying to educate them.
Right.
That was like my first go-to chain video store. So we decided, we'll put my name on that. You'll see, if you look at some of the stickers and look around on those packages once in a while, you'll see little hints and things like that.
Well, and some of them, like the one that I really want to highlight the packaging on, this is one of the most impressive for me. Like, what are you doing with the packaging on this? Because it's such a unique idea.
I wanted it to look like. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I have a tape right here. I wanted it to look like a plastic case. So you have, the edge and everything. I wanted it to look like it was in a plastic case. And the other thing, which I think is funny, especially if somebody's trying to resell that on eBay and they say, well, it's mint condition, brand new. And to a lesser informed person, they're going to look at one of these beat up covers and say, what do you mean that's in mint? Like, if you look at it in the thumbnail, I'm almost trolling a little bit, but if you look at it in the thumbnail, you say in mint condition, you're like, because the level of detail that we try to get in, and the credit completely goes to my brother David. I mean, this is one of my favorites. I think he captured the essence. You can't see it on the video, of a clear plastic case, even on the spine. It's just so much fun, and the cut on the paper is uneven. Like, this is how things looked in video stores back then. And I want to do a little trolling for somebody that's trying to buy that on eBay. And is less informed. I mean, I love that. I love that package. I love it. It just looks like a plastic case.
With Final Justice, I feel like I remember you saying that there is almost the fact that none of these are going to be alike, right? That there's all kinds of different shades.
Well, yes. Like, if you look at, and not to, like, I buy a lot of Mill Creek stuff. They have their retro line slip covers, but every one of them looks the same for the exception of the artwork. No two slip covers have the same identical damage or wear and tear. They always have different stickers. I'm ashamed to admit I've been buying a lot of VHS again. It started when I would be out at a thrift store or a flea market and there was a sticker on it that I wanted to scan. I'm like, oh, that'll be good for the Rewind package. And then I said, I think I started enjoying buying VHS again. So I've been buying up a lot of VHS. The more beat up and the more stickers, the better. But I try to be authentic, as close to, as it was. And that's for two different types of buyers. You have somebody who's my age who enjoys the nostalgia and seeing it like that again. And you have somebody who's younger who didn't live through that era, but loves it and wants to get an idea of what that feels like.
And it's a very, very fine line between retro and nostalgia for some of these people. Because, like you said, there's two different groups of people buying them. And either way, it appeals to both of them. Yeah,
for me, is, at this point in the life of physical media, I mean, we're selling a collectible. And I want somebody to have something that they can proudly display on their shelf, whether it's their favorite movie or not, just because it looks cool. And I try to make it look cool.
And they do. I'm very happy with the way they look. Before we go into details on a few more of them, who's Eric the Collector? I mean, obviously you've got a giant wall of stuff behind you. I think that you've said you've got like 10,000 releases or something like that, right?
I have about I'm closing in on like 11,000 titles. Wow. And I try to keep track of them in a spreadsheet, and for those collectors out there who use a DVD profiler from MVD, which it's very annoying that they have not updated it in a while. Yep. It's buggy and I have issues with it. I have about between 10 and 11,000 at this point, half of which are Blu-ray, the other half DVD, and maybe 200-300 4Ks. But I don't like to talk about my age, but I've been collecting a long time. It started. The first movies I bought were on CED discs, which is why I have it's why the Swamp Thing has sort of a throwback look to that. I have I don't even know how to explain why I wanted to do it. It just made me feel good. And I'm a collector, and I don't know if it makes other people feel good. There's a lot of younger collectors that they might not get it at first until they hit a flea market and see an actual disc. Like, oh, which is my favorite because they get it later. But I started buying CED discs, and eventually I convinced my dad to buy a VCR. And I didn't look back. I mean, before even sell-through was a popular thing, I would go into video stores begging them to, sell. I would save my lunch money. I would starve at lunch at school and just use that money to buy movies.
Yeah, I've been there on many different forums.
Yeah, so it was like it was CD, then Beta and VHS, then VHS and Laserdisc, then Laserdisc and DVD, then DVD, then Blu-ray, and now 4K. I don't go nuts with the 4K. If I'm going to upgrade to a 4K, as a collector, my rule of thumb is it's got to be something that's going to, a typical romantic comedy. It comes out on 4K. I don't need to buy that. Right. But if it's a movie that I love, and I want a better quality copy of it, I will, upgrade.
Well, as somebody who has been in this industry for so long and has been a collector for so long, I think this is a really valuable time to get some insight from you on the current state of things and how you are seeing parallels perhaps to the past. So one of the things that I've gotten a lot of comments from people for recently is the upgrades, like you just mentioned. And I think that there's a lot of people that started collecting either very recently or after Blu-ray came out, and this is their first time when they're facing a format change. Are you feeling like a lot of the same things for the format changes that we've had from going from Laserdisc to DVD? Is there a lot of similarities to back then, in your opinion?
I mean, the only difference now is I think it's the last physical media format that you're going to see. I just don't see 8K or whatever. Then I just don't see it. I think it's the last one. I don't think because what I said, I don't think people feel the need to rebuy everything. Right. In some cases, when Blu-ray came out, there were some DVDs. If I see them cheap enough on, if there's a movie that I don't love, if I'm at a flea market and it's $1 and I'll upgrade, sure. But there's less of a need to upgrade every title again, because it's now a collector's market. I look at physical media now as a slightly better, more robust version of the heyday of Laserdisc, when people were, when the diehard collectors were buying Laserdisc, because Laserdisc were presented in widescreen and they had bonus features and commentaries and things like that. This is the Laserdisc is the grandfather of the collector's edition Blu-ray. I think the younger collectors don't understand is, when you wanted to buy Terminator 2, which you can buy a special edition Blu-ray of that now for probably $6 on Amazon, that cost $150, $200 back in the early 90s to get that extended cut with all the bonus features and the bells and whistles. So even with the prices of the 4Ks now, they're more in line with what Laserdisc was back in the mid 90s.
One of the things that comes with the whole quality discussion, like you're bringing up right there, is this whole idea of the golden age of physical media. And the way I've been sharing it with other people is, to me, I think the golden age of quality is probably right now. But I think we're still a little bit behind that access level. I mean, early 2000s, we were seeing 150 million copies of some things getting sold. And limited edition Wizard of Oz was numbered 150,000. And how do you feel about the whole golden age idea?
What do you mean? Like that it's the end of the...
No, like some people are saying that this is the best time for physical media. And
it's the best time for collectors for physical media, not so much for the studios. I mean, when you talk about boutique labels like Akino Lorber, and you have somebody who loves movies like Frank Tarzi, who oversees that, you're in good hands. I think you can take a look at, say, and I'm not criticizing, like the Warner Archive collection. I love that they're putting a lot of classic films out in that archive collection, but whoever's running that I don't believe they have a passion for the presentation and the format and the media the way the boutique labels do.
I've had some issues with Warner Archive too. I think they do great with their restorations, but I feel like they've been a little pigeonholed into like the 40s and 50s
They could do so much more. They could do, they could do they could be doing so much more, and it's a shame that they're not. At the end of the day, for a collector, sometimes you're just grateful that you're getting that title on a Blu-ray that had never been released before, and for that, I'm appreciative. Would I like some of those releases to be better? Sure. But at least now, and I'm pretty sure they're no longer, when Warner, earlier days of Warner Archive, they were MOD discs, which, as a collector, I will not buy unless I absolutely, I bought Angus on Warner Archive DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. And it was an MOD disc. I mean, I love that movie. Wanted it on, in the correct aspect ratio and on widescreen. You have no choice but to buy those. But 99% of the time, if it's an MOD disc, I won't buy it. But at least they've upgraded to actual press discs, which is good. And maybe, at some point, somebody will step in and say, hey, we need to do better. I think I like that Paramount with their Paramount Present series seems to be making an effort. I love, and almost mad that I didn't think of it, I love their slipcovers that open up to see the poster. I think that's great. I love them.
This is a perfect segue. I'm curious what you think is next for the studios, because obviously Paramount Presents, they do fairly well with these, but my biggest thing that I'm pointing out lately, studios like especially Warner in the UK, they're delivering full-on collector's editions, hardbox, 4K releases of titles, but we're not getting them in the US. And it seems like they kind of want to compete with the boutiques, but only with like their toe in the water.
I mean, I don't know. When it comes to the studios, I think the attitude is if it's not making, if it's only making this much, we don't need to, even though we're making money, even though it's profitable, it's just not worth the time and effort. So, I think what's next is, I would hope that as studios eventually eliminate their own proprietary dedication or manpower to physical media, I would hope that they do more licensing to boutique labels who will happily take on the work and do the release.
And with like Paramount, we're finally seeing some of that. I mean,
somebody over there is doing a decent job. They have a lot of titles in that catalog I think they could be working on, but it's like you don't want to make any sudden movements and scare them away. You know what I mean? Like, let's just let them keep, releasing, and hopefully every once in a while they'll get one that I really want.
I basically had the exact same feeling because Kino's announced, I think, 4 or 5 Lionsgate titles, and everybody's like, this is amazing. I'm like, hold on, stay quiet. We don't want to scare them away. Buy the title.
I've been begging Lionsgate for Kickboxer. I mean, short of Kickboxer and Replicant, which I think is a slept-on Van Damme movie that I absolutely love.
Yeah. And, I mean, you've got some Van Damme in the Rewind collection. That
I know.
Fit perfect.
Because all the horror was, by the time we were late to the game, all the good horror was kind of gobbled up. So I'm like focused in, which sort of helped create the personality of the label in that, it can't just be a horror label. Let's just, I think I forget what a tagline that I don't use often enough. Classics and more from the video store, something like that,
I've had people ask me because I made a guide video to MVD Rewind a couple years ago, and tried to get people hooked on this label and interested in it. And one of the things that people started to complain about, I'm a big defender of, and I know that you are as well. So I want to talk about the reissues on MVD Rewind. This is probably the first one that got people a little antsy when they saw this come out after it was released from Vinegar Syndrome. I personally hate limited edition titles. I am all about accessibility to titles. So MVD Rewind has re-released, I don't know, 7 or 8 titles. It's not even like a huge number.
It's my 2 reasons. One, I agree with you 100%. There's no I get that Vinegar Syndrome sort of one and done's it, but if the title's available and I think there's plenty of life left in it, of course I'm going to pick it up. Am I going to try to do something different? I will make an effort to do something different, whether that be the packaging. With this one, I got a slightly different or sort of bonus features. I know people don't want to buy them again, and you don't have to if you don't want to. It's not hurting my feelings. But and the other reason is I need to keep feeding the beast, so to speak. And when a title like that comes along, where the master's done, where we have access to the existing, a good amount of the existing bonus features, like it's all sort of ready to go. It's easy for me to drop that in while I'm working on a more elaborate one. Because I've been working on Swamp Thing for 2 years. So it's easy. I can't not put stuff out. So, and I just, if it's a movie I like and I want my version, I want to put my fingerprint on it.
And there goes that collector from the inside again, because without that touch, it can feel very samey. But that's the thing here. There are some other labels that are literally just releasing the exact same thing that's been done before. MVD Rewind hasn't really done that. It still feels very personal.
I mean, doing this job is it's like I collect for a hobby and it's a passion of mine, and I literally get to collect. I said this to somebody else recently. I literally get to collect for a living. In that it's like going, getting to pick titles to put out is like me going into a video store to pick titles to buy in my collection, And I always say that the other collectors can rest assured that I'm speaking for them. I'm not trying to say that I speak for them, but you can rest assured that I have your best interest at heart, because I want what they want.
I think one of the ways that is most apparent is through pricing. And that's one of the things I really kind of wanted to hit, because MVD Rewind, you don't feel like a budget label. It's not like Mill Creek $8 release day on Amazon or anything like that. But it's not something that takes advantage of you. It's something that you can see. Miami Blues, it's going to be worth a $20 title on release day.
But I don't price gouge in that.
Right.
If I spend more, I have to set the price accordingly to the budget that we spend. So a Swamp Thing's going to cost a little more, because we just, we spent a lot on Swamp Thing. And Rain Man's another one. We spent a lot on Rain Man. However, if you look at the pricing on, I think the suggested retail price on the Go-Go Boys is $19.95. I could be wrong. We spent money on the acquisition in advance to acquire it, but there were no bonus features to be made for that. I mean, the movie itself technically is a bonus feature, because it's you know what I mean? But so a Vampire's Kiss or a Miami Blues, these are titles that are going to have, or Nemesis 2, 3, and 4 is a good example. These are titles that are going to have lower SRPs, because those have a few bonus features. If I spend less, I promise you'll pay less. I don't look at an opportunity on a title like the Go-Go Boys and give it a $40 SRP just because the other ones are $40. I will not do that, because I know you're on a budget, and if I can make it less, I will make it less. Like Red Line, which is in the Marquee collection, that's $20 suggested retail price. I cannot recommend that movie enough, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I have seen Red Line, and it's one that I have recommended.
It is script. If I may bring it up, I wish I have a copy upstairs. Script wise, it's not great, and I don't want to diss the screenwriter. It's just not great. But the cinematography in that film, and I forget the name of the cinematographer. He just passed away. He's an Academy Award-winning cinematographer. The guy that did Jaws and Cuckoo's Nest did the cinematography, and. You know how you watch a Fast and Furious movie and all the stunts are fake because there's so much CGI? This movie, they used the CGI to complement what they shot for real, not have the action be made up of CGI. There are stunts and car crashes and things that they do in this movie. I had not really seen the movie until I picked it up. And I'm like, this is great. This is really good. And it's bad good. The lead actress does her best job that she can do, but she's one of the things I love about the movie, and you need to see it to, you'll see what I mean. If for those who haven't seen Red Line, it comes out. It might come out this week or next week, but it's cheap. Pick it up. That's why I made that $20. I'm like, I want people to see the movie.
Well, and it's, again, that's the SRP is $20. Most places will have
retail,
it.
Yeah, it's probably going to be $13.99 or something.
Yeah. And honestly, it pairs really well with Action USA that I was holding up earlier.
It does. It does, because which Action USA, same thing. Those are real stunts. There's no CGI in that thing. The difference is Action USA obviously was shot on a budget, and you can tell that. I mean, Red Line might be the most expensive independent film ever made. I mean, the budget is up there on the screen. There's things they could have done better, but man, it's a fun movie to watch. It's
cinematographer is Bill Butler, by the way.
Bill Butler, yes. The best way to describe it's sort of a ripoff between obviously Fast and Furious and Gone in 60 Seconds, and it sort of mashes those two movies together to make a movie.
One thing that I wanted to throw out here from the whole collecting on the inside thing that I've appreciated about you since day one is your open communication. Not everybody does this. Not everybody asks, hey, I've got these two titles, but not many bonus features. Would you be happy if I put them on the same disc? And you willingly poll the audience on Blu-ray.com, on Facebook. You get opinions. That is amazing.
Yeah, and I try my best. Sometimes I'm slow to respond, but I try to acknowledge every comment, either with a like or I try to answer every question. I get a lot of direct messages through social media, and I try to address every one of them. And especially if there's an issue, God forbid, and I try to avoid another Jack Frost 2 situation at all costs. But I make sure that first and foremost, I am out in front of it, and we do our best to correct it. That one took a long time to correct, but I knew that a lot of people were passionate about that film, and it had to be right.
You must have read my mind. This was next on the stack to bring up. And I have a lot of people that watch this that love the technical side and the process behind the scenes. Can you share what exactly happened with Jack Frost 2? And that way they understand how hard this is.
What went wrong there is the fans of that movie knew it better than me. I'd seen it once, maybe on VHS back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I knew it was a movie that people wanted to own, so I picked it up. When it came time to do the check disc, I watched it all the way through. I did make a mental note because my son wanted to watch it. At first he said, well, let me watch it first, make sure there were, too much nudity or violence. And this is where I kicked myself in the ass and where I screwed up. I watched it. I gave it a passing grade because it played nicely all the way through and all the features worked and everything. And I said to my son, he's like, so Dad, can we watch that? I said, yeah. I said, I was surprised there wasn't as much gore or nudity in that movie that I thought there would be. I thought I remembered it being there, but maybe I'm wrong. So it turns out that there was a version of the movie made that edited those things out. Normally, when it's a movie that I'm not super familiar with, at the very least, there's a minute off on the running time, or there's something that says, hey, you want to check that out? So in the case of this film, not only were the scenes omitted, but insert shot, the running time I don't think changed, which screwed me up, it just screwed me up. And I approved it. I didn't realize that and I'm admitting, I didn't know the movie well enough to know that there were those shots missing. And I discovered on Christmas Eve the hard way that I had screwed up. But even on Christmas Eve that night in 2021, I was up until 2-3 in the morning, and like you said, answering every question. I didn't wait till after the holiday to post or respond. I posted immediately because I know a lot of people bought that title. A lot of people were disappointed, and I wanted to make sure that they were being heard and the issue was going to be addressed.
So all of the technical side for replacing that, when you have to make that decision, was it even a question for you that you were going to replace it? Or
not a question at all. Okay. I mean, not a question at all. I was just hoping we were able to get the right materials to replace it. But I was saying online on Christmas Eve, this will be fixed, this will be fixed. And then come Monday morning after the holiday, I'm like reaching out to our licensor. I'm like, please tell me you actually have the proper master for this. So yes, is the answer to your question.
Is everybody? Does it feel like you lost many people due to that?
No, if anything, it feels like you gain their trust in your brand because you immediately address the issue. So I don't. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that our stuff quality-wise is better than like Arrow or Criterion. It's not. I mean, we're not budget, but I'd rather. I'm not going to try to compete with Arrow because, like, you see their Shawscope box set or their. I'm trying to think of some of those elaborate packaging, like even like True Romance. I mean, it would take. I don't have enough people here to manage a project the way they do it, but at the very least, when people buy our stuff, they can rest assured that either A, they're going to get something, of decent quality in regards to content and the quality of the master and the bonus features and things like that. But even more so, God forbid, if there's a mistake, and there are going to be more in the future, I can't catch everything. If there's a mistake, it will be, I will go do everything everything that I can to fix it.
And that's exactly what I was thinking, because it feels like the response to that was overwhelmingly positive, which some of these other labels, it is a very, very negative thing when they find some sort of mistake.
Yeah, the one thing that just made me feel good, and it was late that night, and the collectors can be a fickle bunch. I don't want to go as far as say there's a percentage of them are toxic, but there were a couple nasty comments, and I responded to everybody right away. And unlike who I love, and I give a shout out to Walt and Bill Olson, may they rest in peace. Those guys clapped back, and I loved reading the threads when those guys would start tearing into the customers if they said something they didn't like. I try not. I think I took that approach once, and I apologize, and I can't take that approach. But that night, there were a few people here. There were a few people posting things that weren't nice, and the collectors that love and support the label, they sort of defended me. It just made me feel good. I didn't have to clap back. They did it for me, and I was really appreciative of it. I tell people to be nice, don't be rude to anybody, but still, it's nice to know that there's a fans and collectors for the Rewind collection that have my back.
Right. And it's on top of all that, I kept trying to remind people, this is a very easy mistake to make. When you haven't, I mean, the film itself had not been very accessible. And if Eric hadn't seen it since, 1997 or whatever, how is he supposed to memorize the film?
Yeah. And I was rushed. The other thing is I was rushing to get it out by Christmas because I think we even moved the street date, which doesn't help. It wasn't like I could spend more time with the disc. It was a rush. It was really, I wanted to get it out by Christmas. And Jack Frost 1 and Jack Frost 2 came from two different licensors. So to get the schedules balanced out with those, it was a lot of there were a lot of balls in the air to juggle for that one.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm so sorry that happened. I feel bad. I do. I feel bad.
Well, and you can tell, and that's the difference. Some of these other labels, the response is, the disc works, right? You'll be fine.
Yeah, and the other, the pleasant surprise that came out of it is, it turns out there were two aesthetically looking different versions of the unrated cut. One had a filmic look at 24 frames, and I think there's a video-ish look one that was shot on video, or I don't know if that film was shot. That was one of the early films that was shot in HD, and I didn't know that there were two different versions up to that point. When they sent over a master and it looked different, now I'm paying attention. So when they sent over one master and it looked different, I'm like, well, where's this one? Oh, we have that too. I'm like, send them both. And what I did was I reached out to the director and I asked him, because I had two identical versions of the same movie, except one was at 36 frames, the other one was 24. I think that's what was the difference. And I reached out to the director and I asked him directly, which is your preferred version? And that, I believe, is whatever, I don't remember what his answer was, but whatever his preferred version is the version when you hit play. But in the bonus features or in the setup, you can access either version.
And that's exactly how it should be. I am so glad that you've done that.
So collectors got something that they didn't get, they got something that they wouldn't have gotten had that mistake hadn't, if that didn't happen.
Right. That's great. Let's look to the past one or two more times. Are there, let's say, 3 more films from the Rewind collection that maybe are overlooked more than the others that you think people should really check out?
I gotta remember, out of 50 titles, went to Coney Island on a mission from God. Yep. Be back by 5 is one. Which, full disclosure, I am friends with the director. He's one of my best friends. But I would have picked that title for the Rewind collection just based on the aesthetic, the cast. I'm proud to be associated with that film. But the director is a friend of mine, and I had produced the movie The Man from Earth with him, which he also directed, amongst other films such as Mischief Night, The Man from Earth 2, and a few others. So there's a connection there. But that one, I think, is an overlooked title. I'm trying to think of. I'm looking at you got me looking at my stack here, which I don't know which ones I brought over here. I don't know that title. Oh, Boogie Boys, another one. It sold okay. It's a really good thriller. Mark Dacascos is in it, but it's not. He's kicking ass in a different way in this. It's not kung fu.
Right.
It's much to. You could see that I restored the proper, the original VHS, I think it just said from Roger Avery, the Academy Award-winning writer of Pulp Fiction, but he's only the executive producer on this. And I rewrote the tagline to better reflect truth in advertising. I think, and I emailed him back, and we emailed back and forth about that too. He was a lovely person. I wish I could have convinced him to participate on some bonus features for it, but.
Yeah, that would have been nice. The big one that I always go to that I feel like a lot of people never saw because most likely of like The Good Son is Mikey. Mikey is maybe it's like one of my top 3 favorites of this entire collection.
I love that one. It's done well, and I'm really proud of the making of documentary. Richard Schenkman, who made Coney Island. He between his day job of writing and or directing films, he shoots my bonus features for me. He helps produce them. He helps produce them.
Fantastic. So. Yeah, Coney Island is great, and that's one that I feel like I ring the bell really early on. It's one of those, because it's not straight horror, it's not sci-fi. It seems to not have a lot of people jump on it, but it's worth it.
It's really good story. It's got definitely, it feels like a 90s film for sure, with Ione Skye and John Cryer. I'm trying to think who else is in it. But it's a really good movie that sort of catches you by surprise.
Final on looking back, is there one title that if somebody has nothing from the Rewind collection, you say, you know what, this one title it perfectly encompasses everything about the Rewind collection?
Oh my
Not
God.
Like your best film or favorite film, but to describe the collection.
I just did a TikTok showing off the ones I like the best. I don't know. I mean, I'm really proud of Lionheart and Double Impact. I mean, the fact, I'm pretty sure we're the only company, and I'm the only person that was able to get Van Damme to sit down not once but twice for 2 different films and talk about them. And he did a promo for one. He held up, when he was doing Double Impact, he held up a Lionheart and said, MVD Rewind. I mean, you have no idea what that meant to me. And so, I probably would say those 2. The Swamp Thing I'm pretty proud of, just because no other company was able to clear the international version for domestic release. And that's a great example of my representation. Like, I'm a collector and I'm on the inside. Like, I knew 100% that I was not going to, it's part of what took so long to get the title done, was I absolutely was going to make sure that I did everything in my power and exhaust every avenue to make sure that we got that international version, because that's the first question everybody asks when they announce that title. And it's also a good reason when somebody needs a reason to rebuy something they may already have. That's a good reason. Like, I want to give you something that you don't, that you want, that you don't have. This is a good reason to rebuy this, in addition to it being a beautiful new transfer. And it's also the reason, we spent a lot on that. I didn't make any. One person, when I announced it, made a comment, "What, no new bonus features?" I'm like, seriously? I made sure I went around the world and got the rights to all the bonus features that existed. There was nothing new I could have made or added to that wouldn't have been redundant, in my humble opinion.
Right.
So
let's look at this. This is the actual physical release of this, and
I know it's great, right?
It is gorgeous. First
I'm
off,
bragging. It's great. I feel, I know there were I didn't want a number. So wait, Swamp Thing's what, 51? Because I think 50 is Killzone.
Yes.
So I wasn't going to have two 51s in the Rewind collection. I felt that 4K needed. I knew people were going to complain because this wasn't a price gouge thing either. We have the Swamp Thing with the Blu-ray, obviously it's the regular kind of Rewind release. The 4K has also got the same Blu-ray, but it also has the movie on 4K on the inside, a different poster. I know that's going to bother some people because they're going to feel compelled with the FOMO of having to buy two, and they look a little different. But I think 4K needs its own line. I can't have, Lionheart, which I'd love to work on this year at some point, be number, 14 in the collection, and then be number 57 in the collection again. It's just not going to happen. Plus, they're two different formats. So the LaserVision collection, as I'm calling it, it's still Rewind. It's just, those are our high def.
And I see where you're coming
4K
from, because
high def.
With format rights, there's certain things that you will be able to do on one and not on the other. So it would be completely all over the place if you were keeping it on the same line.
Yeah. I just feel bad. I feel bad that I know, and some of the, I read the comments and I hear you, you know what I mean? I totally hear what they're saying, but the 4Ks have to have their own line. One of the comments suggested maybe, reversible artwork with the on the inside of the 4Ks, which is probably a good idea. That has the slip covers will always have the CED look, but maybe the reversible artwork on the inside have it look like the Blu-ray counterpart, but with the 4K logos on the spine and whatnot. And I think maybe going forward, that's what I'm going to do. That way, if you just buy the 4K, you have the inside artwork of the 4K. The inside of it has the typical Rewind artwork.
Nice. That's a good move.
Well, that's just an idea, but I'm trying to, I'm going to figure that out in future titles.
So you mentioned earlier the nostalgia of this design.
Yeah.
Can you share what this is for people that don't know anything about it? And
hold on. Let me see. I might have a sample of one down here.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay. That is an RCA CED disc. This was home video format from 1981 to 1984. This is unopened demo disc that came with this player. Wow. I haven't opened it. I want to open this and play it because I just restored and fixed the player. But I feel bad about it. This is factory sealed. Like, this is like the collector in me. Like, I'm torn. Do I open this and play it? Right. I mean, put in the comments. Let me know what you think. Or maybe I'll make a TikTok. I'll pop it in. We'll see what it is. It's CED was a home video format that sort of competed with Laserdisc at the time. Laserdisc was a little more expensive. They're basically vinyl records on the inside with really tight grooves, and you pop this thing into the player. You pull this thing out, the case, like, you put the case on the floor, place the movie, you flip it over halfway through the movie. The nice part about it as a collector back in the early 80s was VHS tapes and beta tapes had $80, $100 suggested retail prices back then, but you could buy it on CED discs for $20 to $25. So for a collector, it was a really great value. But the players had needle cartridges that were expensive. They wore out, I don't want to say quickly, but you'd have to replace them. And they were, again, they were expensive replacement. Sometimes if the disc wasn't stored properly, if you stacked too many up, it would warp or bend them. So it wasn't a real durable format, and it wasn't as practical, I guess you could say, as Laserdisc. But the picture quality was decent, better than VHS, not quite as good as Laserdisc. And it was an inexpensive way to build a collection.
And I think that's one of the things people don't realize when they're looking back on I hate to use the term format wars, but like the evolution that we've had over the last 40 years. Some of these, like laser discs, they were like $140 on release for some of them.
Not all. Well, the collector's edition. So when you were talking about, say, Aliens, or the Pioneer made this beautiful Platoon that looked like a scrapbook, and I have all these. I'm building a retro media room, which I'll have to, next time we do this, we can record in there. The more expensive sets were that price, but like Columbia TriStar, now known as Sony, I mean, they were at the $20 to $25 range on their laser discs, which were great. I remember Die Hard with a Vengeance on Street Date was $49.95. I bought that. I remember buying that at Tower Records on Laserdisc. I think it just depends. It varied from title to title and company to company.
Well, it was also $49.95 in '90s dollars and not $2023.
That's true.
Quite a bit different nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean it's more expensive or less expensive?
It would be more expensive. So somebody back then, they probably had to work a good.
Yes, okay, yes, you're right, because of inflation. Yeah, so
they probably had to work a good 12 hours to pay for one laser disc.
Yeah, but they still do now because the wages are down now, so aren't they?
Well, they're higher than it was then, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kidding.
Okay, so we've got that coming, and then there was a flash on another stream this weekend of a possible cover. Can you share about that?
We have another movie coming to the 4K LaserVision Rewind collection, and you'll have to pause the screen on that. I was drinking a few beers. I mean, I wasn't drunk or anything, but I was like 3 beers in, so you could watch that. I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling happy. I was in a good mood. So, but yes, we're gonna. I'm gonna try to make the announcement in the next day or so. So, I'm excited for it.
Amazing. This one is actually a question because I don't think publicly that has been said if it was you. Are you the one that was behind these ones going?
Yeah, I do that. I'm working. I'm working on 5 more right now.
That was the question. Okay, how did they do for you?
They're doing. First of all, they don't have any HD masters.
Right.
Or otherwise, I might have considered some of them for Blu-ray because we did Snapdragon and that did pretty good. We work with the company Multicom with licenses and stuff, and that's where House and Sorority Row and Mortuary, the original Mortuary, came from. And they had all these movies. I call them Skinemax movies. They call them Skinmax. That's their brand. I have to give them credit. They came up with that brand. They told me, we call them Skinmax. Oh my God! All right. Then when we designed the package, I designed it around their logo, which was great. Yep. They had all these movies, didn't know what to do with them, and like there are some movies, like obviously a movie like Lionheart, we're paying a license fee in advance for. With those, if she said, if the licensor said to me, they wanted an advance, I wouldn't have bothered. But I'm like, I basically said, what the hell? I was like, if you want to give me those, give me 10 of them and let me make a couple of double features. I'll take whatever you have. I'll make a couple of double features. No frills. We'll keep them inexpensive. You give me those. I said, if they do great, we can do more. If not, we'll consider it a failed experiment. and they are doing respectably well. I got to tell you, I had to watch we get the check discs, and I review most of the check discs that come in to make sure everything works, especially after Jack Frost 2. And my head hurt after watching those. I mean, I get why people like them, but I mean, they're bad, man. They are not good. But they're very. There was one of them that I was like literally laughing my ass off at the acting. You know, I don't think they're sexy personally, but they are definitely a product of its time. Yep. And I'm proud to be. I'm pouring through their library now, picking more out. The big problem, one of the problems I run into yesterday is I've been working on getting titles set up for this, and I noticed I'm looking up titles on the internet to see what kind of artwork's available, find out more information on the movies, because these aren't movies I'm real familiar with.
Yeah. And
I'm discovering the name of the movie was changed to make it a sequel to another movie that it's not that's the collector in me saying, whoa. I literally sent the licensor an email. I'm like, did you change the name of this movie just so you can maybe sell it or market it? I'm making sure that I'm carefully curating the titles and that we're not getting something that was named, Intimate Thrills in 1996, and now it's, Love Me Twice.
Wild
2,
Things 12.
You know what I mean? But one of the ones I am putting out in the new batch, which I will tell you, is Different Strokes with Dana Plato. I didn't know that they owned this one. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a sexy drama thriller from the late 90s. And part of me feels bad because I know that her career was suffering at the time that was made.
Right.
But I've watched clips of it and it needs to be seen.
And that's one of the things that I was like, I'm going to get these just in case that it's something that'll promote it and they'll do more of these. Not many companies are putting out any of those crazy 90s erotic thrillers, the early 2000s, not like borderline sexy, but like real movies kind of.
Yeah. And they're also an example of pricing. They have a $14.95 suggested retail price. I think Amazon sells them for less than $10.
Yep.
2 movies, but and all of a sudden it's becoming a thing. You know what I mean? It's the line, and you're not the first person to ask. We're putting more out. I'm like, yes, we are putting more out. I'm trying to get 5 more out before the end of the year.
Nice. Very nice. So other than 4K, what is going on behind the scenes right now? Anything that you can share that you've been focusing on or working towards? Not specific titles, obviously, but is there, a shift in attention for Rewind? Is there something that you're...
No, I mean, I'm just, there's what I call my white whales, which is King of the Kickboxers, which the licensor I've been chasing since 2016, literally. I know it's a movie that fans want, it's a movie I want, and I'll email him once a month just to... Even if he doesn't respond, I keep emailing, I keep calling. I want that movie, and I'll do whatever. I said, tell me what you want. At this point, I'll convince my boss to pay. There's that. I've been working with producer Don Murphy on the life story of Gigi Allen I produced movies sort of as a side gig. So that's going on. Although nothing, now we're in the middle of a writer's strike. But we do have a completed first draft of a script, and we have Jonas Ackerlund attached as director. I have Don Murphy, the executive producer of Transformers series and Natural Born Killers, as producer. I'd love to see that become a movie. It's a really great script.
What's funny is I've got a bunch of patrons that are a part of the channel that I asked if they had questions for Eric, and I had one that was really obvious that they really wanted an answer, and it was, are we ever going to see a Blu-ray release of Hated?
I don't know if we have HD material for that. However, we picked up, it's a really good question. We picked up, it was a movie that I worked on when I was at Kino called Who is Harry Nilsson and Why is Everybody Talking About Him?
Yep.
This was a movie that was shot mostly on video, and it had a lot of archival footage on video that wasn't really meant for HD. But I looked at the master, that the standard def master, and I don't normally do up-reses. And we up-res that. It says right on the package, big box in the back of the package. Like I would never try to pass off an up-res as like, you know what I mean? And I'm going to I'd love to look at Hated. I'll check with the licensor and see if HT material, excuse me, I'm sorry, see if HD materials exist. If not, I'll see the possibility of maybe up-resing that. And if it looks good enough, I think like Blu-ray.com gave the Harry Nilsson doc 3.5 or 3.5 out of 5 stars in terms of video quality. And I was like, thank you. I was grateful because it's an up-res, but right. I love that doc. The Nilsson doc, I think it's worth the upgrade. I mean, it definitely looks better than the DVD.
Well, and there's probably a lot of stuff that you could throw on a Blu-ray with Hated, with all kinds of extra features. And if I remember right, isn't MVD like the sole holder of rights around the GGL and stuff?
Well, we distribute the content. Right. Not so easy to take content from different licensors and put them all on one disc.
Of course.
So when it comes down to paying the royalty, you know, that's where it becomes a challenge.
Yeah, dividing that pie is never easy.
It's not easy, but if the same content comes from the same licensor, it's a little easier. Like it's easy to make a Black Eagle Lionheart double feature because the check gets written to the same person. But I couldn't put Lionheart on the same disc as Double Impact.
Yeah, that would be a little
different licensors.
Yeah. MVD Marquee. We don't seem to be getting quite as many as there were for a little bit of time. Is there anything crazy coming out soon?
Depends on the title. I mean, if it's worthy, it's Marquee worthy, it goes in the Marquee. Yeah. Doesn't get surprised no one follows that or you know that I look on the social media, not a lot to talk about it. I put up a TikTok on Rewind, it gets 6,000 views. I put up a TikTok, an identical TikTok, because I did the Rewind one of my favorite slipcovers or my favorite titles or whatever. Six or so thousand views so far. I'm like, all right, I'm on to something here. Let me do it again with Rewind or with Marquee. And it's got like less than 1,000. I mean, come on, people.
I love a lot of
good titles.
There's
some good titles in there. There are some good titles in there.
And again, it's fairly priced. It's one of those labels that you can really expand horizons to stuff that you've never seen, because a lot of them, it's not the same genre, and you can do it fairly cheaply.
I mean, if you're not anybody that hasn't, it's a movie that I actually really enjoyed. James Franco in Zeroville.
Yeah.
That movie was. I tried to get it when it first came out. They wanted too much money. They did some kind of deal where they sold it to Redbox, had it, but then it didn't get like a regular physical media release. And then I was able to get the title. I mean, not a perfect film, but man, it's got Franco and Seth Rogen and Will Ferrell. I mean, it's a good retro movie about making movies. It's a little bit esoteric in places, but man, Jackie Weaver. I mean, like it's a really good movie. That's another one that I would highly recommend that you should, if you're collecting movies. And I priced it, I think, at $20. That's a movie you should have in your collection.
Well, and the other thing, the MVD sales that happen are always amazing.
Yeah, I try, but once a year we try to do a big one around Thanksgiving and Black Friday.
We did a stream last year. We went through a lot of them live while we were looking at it, and you can get a reasonable cart full of like 12 titles and really great titles and walk out for way less than even just a few titles at any other.
I mean, listen, if a slipcover is like, we do slipcovers on the first pressing. If they're gone, it's a little easier for me to do that. And the other thing is I know that there are people that if I mark something down at Black Friday, I want to make sure. I know that there are people that bought that on street date and probably they didn't pay full retail, but they paid more for it. And I don't want somebody that paid full price for something to feel like they got ripped off come Black Friday, where somebody's buying that same movie for $9.99. So there's that. The other factor is inventory. If we have a lot of, I think, like they were my first round of marquee titles. I think we had Barbershop 2, Memories of Me, which is a movie I love that Henry Winkler directed. Those did not sell well, and I think I had them at $3.99 on Blu-ray during. You know what I mean? I made dirt. If we have a lot of inventory, it doesn't. You know, I have to move that inventory.
Exactly, and those blowout prices, the way that they're done, that's the best way to get rid of stuff. I mean, people's more likely to buy it than honestly.
There are, as a collector, there are movies that like Criterion's Thelma and Louise. I have to have that right away. I'm not going to wait for. It's probably not going to be in the Criterion sale anyway, but I'm not waiting for that to go on sale. I'm buying that now. And then there are other movies that like a Memories of Me. I don't need to buy that at street date, but if it's on sale and it's inexpensive enough, I'll buy it.
That makes sense.
I just recently on Amazon had Mill Creek's My Girl and My Girl 2. I think it was $5.99. Yeah. I had them on DVD. That was all right, $6, and I had some Amazon points. I bought that. So
worth it at that price for sure.
If it's cheap, I'll buy it. I'll upgrade or I'll add it to the collection. And I understand that there's going to be titles like that.
One of the ones I was trying to look over on the shelf and see it because I brought every single Rewind collection over here, but I believe there's even a Jess Franco title in the Marquee collection, right?
No. So the neglected label, like Marquee doesn't really get neglected. Just when I have to wait till I pick up the right movies for that. The neglected label is the MVD Classics line.
That's the one. Yep.
That was for like those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But I have 3 new ones finally to add to that line that I've recently set up and I'm working on. The packaging was just completed and everything. So they will be announced soon. That one of them's another Franco title that I don't think's been released before. One of them's a Western. I can't remember the names of them. I would just tell you. But one's like a Nazi exploitation thing. So.
All right. Let's see. Anything else for any of the MVD lines coming up that you want to shout out? Or I guess Rain Man. That's a big one. We didn't really get into
excited. I'm really. It's a lot of work. That's one. We licensed it from MGM. We were going to move forward with they had a pretty good. It was from 2013, 4K HD master that was director approved.
Right.
We had gotten all the way up to the check disc stage, and I was getting ready to approve the check disc. And let me tell you, it looked good. I have several monitors in a screening room in my basement. Even though it was 2013, it looked good, but it was not HDR, it was SDR. But it's Rain Man. A lot of talking heads. I know it has beautiful cinematography, but it was an approved master. I'm like, and I wanted to keep the cost down too, was the other thing. Because I think I was going to go out at $39.95 with that. Was my original intention anyway. We announced the title. It said it was going to be, it was not going to have HDR Dolby Vision. And there were a small minority, small but loud minority that made a little noise about it not being a new transfer, not HDR. And I was just going to go forward with it anyway. However, my boss was having lunch with Bill Lustig from Blue Underground. He had mentioned I heard all the news about you're not doing HDR in Rain Man. What's that about? And he didn't know. He's like, should we? My boss asked him, should we be doing that? Apparently, Bill says yes. But I try to get these things done on a reasonable budget because if we're not profitable, we can't buy more movies to put more movies out. He calls me up, says, what's this we're not doing? I think he said, what's this we're not doing VCR on Rain Man? I'm like, you mean HDR or something like that. And I explained to him, like, look, my goal here is to keep the company profitable. I made an executive decision to go forward with the 2013 4K HD Master, which I thought looked pretty great. And he said, well, find out how much it's going to cost and we had already authored. I was at the check disc stage.
Jeez.
He said, find out how much it's going to cost to go back, get access to the camera negative, and rescan the movie, basically start over. Right. I did the budget. I let him know. And he he understood that, hey, this is a movie that won Best Picture. It was a huge hit at the box office, and gave me the green light. He said, "Let's push the date back. Let's go back and do this." So then the challenge with that title became, once you touch the master, because the 2013 master was director approved, and you can't make changes to a filmmaker's film without their approval. I think that's in the DGA and his contract with MGM. So once we rescanned it, I think what we did was to try to save time is they used the 2013 master as sort of a guideline to do the first pass of the color, but we had to basically, getting in touch with Barry Levinson proved challenging, but we had to get in touch with Barry Levinson, which we did, and then we had to schedule time with him so he could review the master and approve it again. And it just looks so good, though. I'm kind of glad we did it. I'm glad that my boss isn't the movie geek that I am, but I think he appreciates the importance of preservation and restoration, and we're archivists, and his approval of that really is giving fans of that movie a real treat.
And it means a lot. I mean, literally archiving it in the best possible quality. That's a big deal, especially for the filmmakers. I
love and respect the man that owns this company, and I am grateful that he understands that too, because of him and his openness to let us go back and sort of redo that whole project is really, it's an amazing thing. And it's giving, now there's a reason to rebuy that movie. You know what I mean?
That makes perfect sense. I know you've got some places to go, so we're gonna let you go.
I got movies to work. I'm literally going to watch the check. I have a conference call, and I have to go and watch the check disc of the movie that I may have mentioned on another podcast the other day after 3 or 4 beers,
which will be linked in the description below, by the way. Eric, thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible, and I hope to do this again. And just keep doing what you're doing. We all love it.
Thanks so much for having me on. I love talking about movies and collecting movies. You know what I mean? I'm happy that I have a job that gets me invited to your podcast to talk about movies. Like, it's just I can't believe I get to do what I do. And I'm not trying to brag or whatever, but I'm a collector, man. This is just a fraction of it. I have shit all over this basement.
Maybe one of these days we can do a full live tour and answer questions with everybody and show everything.
Especially when I'm done my I've done my retro room. I have my VHS, Laserdisc, CED, Betamax, my old gaming systems. I bought a CRT
That's
TV.
awesome.
I'm redoing this. I'm so glad I didn't throw out my Laserdiscs. I mean, some of them I did get rid of, but I have a good amount of them. So, nice. I would love to do a tour of that and show that off. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's do it. All right, Eric, thanks for everything. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.